Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Marks on Commentary. I'm Jason Smith.
I'm Eddie Brophy, so you don't have to be.
Another week in wrestling. Mild week. Some highlights, some not so highlights.
I would say mild, but there's everything that's going behind the scenes now. And even Monday Night Raw, I was actually really surprised this past Monday night. Obviously, your prediction did come true. We did get the Triple H Brock Lesnar build-up. However, on a TV PG rated show, I wasn't expecting it to open that explosively.
I don't think it was supposed to get that bad.
That's how you know, though. And I did recently read an article that Chris Jericho was saying that it's kind of a changing of the guard. Triple H is now asserting himself in creative control. And, I mean, granted, while that doesn't mean that he's going to outright take over the WWE, obviously Vince has that company till the day he dies, you could tell this is the beginning of the Triple H era. I mean, he obviously has more stake behind the scenes than most people know now.
The fingerprints are starting to be put on the product.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you look at your opening where you have Brock Lesnar, what was it, 12, 16 staples put in his head. Although my only thing with that, though, is it makes me really believe that Brock's in this for the money. Because he hasn't come out. Since he's returned to the company, since that first F5 to John Cena, he has really not looked that strong to me.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. I mean, he lost the first match back.
He lost to Cena.
Went away till SummerSlam, had the match. Decent, nothing spectacular. And then he was gone since WrestleMania. My only question is it like vindictive of Triple H to say, I'm going to get 2 of the 3 Brock matches he has in a year? Like, is that a waste?
You know, it makes me want to be if they're going to actually give this one to Brock Lesnar. Now, which it seems funny to me because if I'm thinking from a booking standpoint, give Brock the SummerSlam match, give Triple H the WrestleMania match. If Brock gets the WrestleMania match, I almost feel like they value Brock more than most of us think they do. Definitely. But it's definitely not looking that way. The way that Brock came out looking on Monday wasn't very flattering, but it got our attention. Obviously, nobody's excited about Brock Triple H too, but this will get their attention the same way that Triple H and Taker got our attention last year for Hell in a Cell.
Definitely. Now my question is going into this match, since it is the sequel, much like the Taker and Triple H match was last year or the year before WrestleMania, do we need some other element to add to this to hype it up like the Hell in a Cell did?
Well, I remember we did have a conversation about this, and I just feel like to make it more interesting to keep us invested in it, it probably wouldn't hurt to give it a stipulation or a guest referee or something just to make it a little more special. Kind of like not only did we get the Hell in the Cell for, Taker, Triple H, technically 3, we got the return of Shawn Michaels in the guest referee spot, which added to the drama because this is the man Undertaker retired. He is Triple H's best friend, but at the same time, he can't relate to this corporate version of Triple H. I feel like going Hell in the Cell again for a second year in a row not only sullies last year's WrestleMania match, but it does sully the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. I would want to say do something that they tried to do with Nash, which would be like the sledgehammer, match or whatever. But
you don't want 2 big lanky guys climbing the ladder.
It didn't work. It didn't work for Nash and him. That's the only thing is, can we make this a gimmick match without making it really tired and silly and boring?
Now, I had mentioned to you, like, the offshoot idea was we haven't seen it in years, maybe expand upon it, but, like, the Ken Shamrock Lions Den match.
That was an idea I really liked because it worked for Ken Shamrock because Ken Shamrock was a UFC guy.
Absolutely.
That was one of the earliest instances where a professional wrestler came from that world. Now UFC, MMA, it's so mainstream that WWE... I remember a Taboo Tuesday match where you had to vote for the matches. I think it was MVP and Matt Hardy. They even threw mixed martial arts in as an option. Obviously, it didn't go that route, but why not bring back the Lions Den? Granted, that was a Ken Shamrock-specific match. I mean, they've already taken the ankle lock away from Ken Shamrock, so what would be the Lions Den to them?
I think it'd be cool. I mean, that cage itself is very small, but if you expand it, something new that we've never seen before that lowers from the ceiling, that maybe it's the size of the ring.
Absolutely.
That would be amazing. Like something we've never seen, you're going to get hyped up for. The first Elimination Chamber, you're like, what is this thing? I want to see this.
Absolutely. Well, you can even shit on, say, the Punjabi prison match. I mean, that was really interesting looking, and even... lest we forget the Kennel from Hell, where it was the old school blue steel cage with the Hell in a Cell over a worst goddamn match I've ever seen, but on paper seemed like a really novel idea.
The idea of it. And I'm actually disappointed that match was so terrible because we never seen that construction of the cages before.
Oh, absolutely. And there's so many different elements you can throw in here. I'm not against, and even like the Owen Hart Ken Shamrock SummerSlam match, that was in the basement, or I think it was even in a different arena.
The fully loaded match from the previous month, that was in the Hart Dungeon.
That was the dungeon, but then the SummerSlam 98 match where they did the Lion's Den.
Oh, yeah, that was at MSG, and they moved the cage inside. They have like a smaller
Yeah, they had like a small offshoot arena. That's even an option for this. It doesn't have to take place.
Yeah.
But you know what?
But
it's a big venue. It's a bigger venue, so it's a much different story.
You gotta build it.
But not to dwell too much on that, because another match that really shocked me was Miz and Jack Swagger. Yeah. And mostly because Jack Swagger, it doesn't look like they're penalizing him too badly. But from what I've read, they are going to try and give him, the 2-day jail sentence. They are going to try and go after him for the fine. But I really, again, you took two guys I don't like. You took Miz and you took Swagger, two guys that have bored the hell out of me. Miz actually sold a good babyface gimmick, and Jack Swagger really came across as an excellent heel, a believable, credible heel. I was really impressed with that match. I mean, we don't have to focus on it too much, but I was impressed by it.
No, it was definitely an interesting one. Are you surprised that there really hasn't been as much like backlash for Swagger, or is it's WrestleMania season, all is forgiven, we're already in motion?
I think it's a combination of it is WrestleMania season, but as Eric Bischoff even wrote a book on, controversy creates cash.
Definitely.
Anything they can do with the free press they're getting from TMZ and all these other websites and news outlets, they can use with, again, Rush Limbaugh and people like that, the Republican talking heads. I mean, you mentioned, before we start shooting, Michael Cole's interview. Yeah. They're getting some buzz off of this.
Definitely.
Why not? It's controversial. The character itself is controversial, but it's funny to have such a controversial character with the person playing this character having obviously some issues backstage.
Yeah.
I mean, he may not get the title. I mean, the rumor is that they built this thing for him to get the title and create this really excellent, like, New America versus, Del Rio, Mexican heritage. What does it mean to be a real American sort of scenario? So I think that would be interesting. I notice you have here Trump in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I was really let down by this because I thought this was going to be the year for Andy Kaufman. I was really banking on Andy Kaufman.
I not even considered that, and that is an awesome pick.
Well, I would consider that because not only do we have Jerry Lawler's heart attack from earlier this year, the match with Punk when he was basically marching around the ring, around Lawler, singing the Andy Kaufman song, taunting him. I feel like the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame is a joke. It's a joke to just get some more press.
I think it's an honorary position for people who have been in and around WWE or the wrestling business in general. I don't have an issue with it as long as the mass wrestling audience understands that this is something different.
Yeah.
Bruno Sammartino's in there for a reason.
Absolutely.
Mick Foley's in there. Trish Stratus, they're all in there for a reason. You're just getting an honorary position.
Well, then I think it would, I don't know, to me it make it more special because you have someone like Andy Kaufman, you have a guy that actually loves the business. You have a guy that sold heel better than anybody that has worked in the company in the past 2 years. And he was a Hollywood actor. He was just that good of a method actor, if you will, or a comedian or a thespian or however you want to look at it, that Lawler-Kaufman feud is so legendary because they sold it so well. And if he doesn't make it this year, I mean, I hope. Obviously, the circumstances are different. I don't think there's an Owen Hart situation stopping it. But, I mean, if there's two guys that I absolutely believe should be in the Hall of Fame by next year, it should be Owen Hart and Andy Kaufman.
I'll definitely agree with you. I think the only reason it happened is it's in the New York market.
It's in New York. It's in New York. You need a New York name.
Yeah, exactly.
You need
if they go out to the Memphis area, absolutely. That would definitely be the celebrity. And the way I've always kind of looked at the WrestleMania Hall of Fame ceremony is think of it as if it's a pay-per-view, and you have an unlimited amount, or not an unlimited, but a selective group of wrestlers that you can really only ever use once.
Right.
And every year you have to add to it. So every time a name's not picked, it's like, well, this guy definitely deserves it, but you have to plan out a show.
I get totally, and especially with Mick Foley, because I mean, I feel like Mick Foley should have been in the Hall of Fame earlier, if you ask my opinion, for everything he gave to the company, obviously with the falling out with Vince and his involvement in TNA. But it does make sense to have Foley co-headline in New York City, same with Sammartino.
I think it would mean more here than it did, say, last year in Florida.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Well, what I want to focus on really from Raw was Punk Cena. Now, this match should not have been as good as it was. It should not have been. It is amazing what you can do when you throw in 3 different moves. I was shocked. I was singing Cena's praises simply because and this is a great thing. Only a real mark will mark out for a move.
Yeah.
When Punk pulled off the pile driver on Cena, mind you, this is a banned move.
Yeah.
This is a banned move, and backstage, from what I read, Vince McMahon lost his
yeah.
shit over this.
But I heard it was nothing that he's going to get reprimanded.
It's nothing. But it's no different than the chair shot that I believe it was Taker took from Triple H at their second WrestleMania match. They got fined for that heavily because you can't take headshots, from chairs anymore, given the whole Benoit circumstance. But well worth it. If he gets fined, someone like Punk is not going to care. I give Cena a lot of credit because the reason, obviously, you're looking at Vince getting angry is that's my co-headliner for Mania. It's him and Rock. What if you hurt him? What if you break his neck?
The move that shortened Austin's career,
Absolutely.
without a doubt.
Granted, the way that pile driver was performed, but it's still, even Lawler, who this was his finishing move, was the pile driver. He made that move famous. Even Lawler said, whatever it takes to give guys longer careers, because we don't need to lose guys to losing one move. But
Absolutely.
the crowd went apeshit. The internet went apeshit. And then you have Cena. We were kind of on the fence about this, the Hurricane Rana. I thought he pulled it off as best as a guy who's Cena size could.
I don't know if they practiced it or whatever. Punk made it work,
Yeah.
I think, but it kind of botched there at the very end. But
Right.
overall, just seeing him do it is impressive
When
enough.
you
It's like the Brock Lesnar shooting star press at
absolutely,
WrestleMania.
absolutely.
He botched the hell out of that, but it was still awesome as hell to see it.
Well, it was impressive to see a guy Brock Lesnar's size have that much agility and just be able to pull something off like that. Someone Cena's size to be able to jump up. And again, I give credit to Punk because Punk really tried to sell that move. And I think he did okay, but you could that was Botchmania. But I give Cena credit. Now we are at 6 moves of doom. Count them 6. But I'm fine with it. I mean, the match itself made me that much angrier that it's not going to be a triple threat at WrestleMania, because between the 3 of them, that could have been one of the most classic Mania headline matches. But
now, I think that was contingent upon, actually, my only complaint about this match was the fact that seconds before this match started, they had that teaser video of The Undertaker.
Absolutely.
Now, to me, that killed the results of the match, because you're saying immediately, Undertaker's coming back. If you look at that roster, there's not a lot of headliners. You go, we all kind of know it's going to be Punk. If they had waited a week on that,
Right.
I would have been more involved. I was still involved, but more involved in, Punk's actually got a chance to win this, and it's going to be a triple threat. That's my only complaint with it.
Well, if we want to touch upon that, because we're going to get to Taker, obviously you were looking at some of the results from the SmackDown taping. Fandango makes his debut, and you were telling me when I walked in here that he didn't even make his debut.
Apparently, you have to say his name properly. Matt Stryker, I believe, went out for some sort of interview or whatever. Fandango gets to the ring and says, "You didn't say my name the right way." I'm not gonna. I didn't hear it yet, so I imagine it's Fandango.
Absolutely.
Or something like that, and decides to leave. And it's not.
This is where the
time for his debut.
WWE should have a sense of humor, though. I'll call you Disco fucking Inferno, and you'll like it. I don't know. I think they're wasting their time. When I see the promos, I'm just like. And we talked about this on the last show with the character wrestlers. Now, I have no problem with character wrestlers, but I feel like we're less concerned about building the actual athletes than we are about throwing another character at you. And again, we were discussing Tensai being paired with Brodus Clay.
Yeah, the whole build-up for Tensei, it was like, wow, this guy's got a mystique to him. We know who he is, but he went to Japan, and now he's a badass. And then slowly, whittled away, and he's this goofy guy that trips at the Slammies, which I don't know if that was supposed to happen or not. I see conflicting reports, but I think he was supposed to. But you just whittle away, and now he's this cross-dressing, dancing fool, the hip-hop hippo, if he was to go back to that gimmick.
Well, now he's got new gear. I'm not 100% on what the name was, but I'm pretty sure they even gave him a new name, T-something, or a T-Beast. He's A-Train. Just call him A-Train.
Albert.
Yeah, Albert.
I'm fine with Albert. The crowd is cheering it. When you have the crowd cheering it, you have to go in the direction that the crowd wants. I get it. We've admitted that Tensai isn't working.
Right.
Let's have him drop the thing. Be like, I came back here for a reason. I'm a world-class wrestler in Japan.
Absolutely.
I've won numerous titles. Let him say that. Let him be the badass that we all think he can, instead of some fucking dancing fool.
We can't all make them CM Punks. We can't all make them capable of pipe bombs, but there's a lot of guys that have gone through a lot of shit to come back to this company and then just get the crappiest gimmicks. make that the gimmick.
Absolutely.
I came from Japan. I was fine out there. I did great in Japan. I was offered this amount of money and these opportunities to come to WWE, and you fucked me over again. There's your gimmick right there.
One thing I want to jump into, if we can jump into the sheets,
absolutely.
and how we were talking about how certain people can't talk. We've seen the rise of managers come back and mouthpieces and everything like that. And one name that I'm really excited that's being somewhat rumored to be happening backstage is James Mitchell, the Sinister Minister.
Yeah.
If that ever happened, folks, if you don't know who the Sinister Minister is, go find. Yeah, where am I? Go find.
You're my shot now. Son.
Yeah, I'm in your shot. Go find a YouTube clip. Any ECW Sinister Minister promo. His work there is just phenomenal. It's like poetry to a wrestling fan. So
I think that, again, this is how you can tell that Triple H is starting to, the guard is changing. More managers. I'm not sounding like a dick, but less divas, more managers, more valets, more tag teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the character gimmick, the Fandango, that's all Vince McMahon. I think what we're going to see more of, and truthfully, if I can be honest here, and Jericho has even said that, him being brought back to the company has been 100% Triple H.
Yeah,
he has not dealt with Vince McMahon.
That's on the MLW radio podcast.
Yeah, he is.
Don't listen to that. Get yourself on that, because that and the Art of Wrestling, one of the best podcasts out there.
But, I mean, if that's the case, I really do think that these are all Triple H decisions, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he comes in. You're gonna see the rise of the managers again, but you're gonna see the rise of really effective. Jack Swagger's the best example right now.
Completely different from a year ago. The fool who didn't deserve to win the U.S. title is the guy in the main event or secondary main event for the World Heavyweight
It's still a main event.
It is. It seems like everybody
gets a title.
Main event.
He's still got a strap.
Triple, quadruple main events sometimes at WrestleMania. You open the show.
Yeah, even if it opens, is it technically a main event? Well, the thing that we can get to now is Taker. Taker returns at a house show in Waco. I thought that was brilliant. Don't bring him back on Raw when we're all expecting it. But even more so, now you did say that the package teasing Taker did ruin the main event. I'll give you that, but Taker didn't come back in the main event.
True. But it brings to the mind, to the wrestling fan, that we know he's out there, but that he's out there, and that he's watching and something's going to happen.
I think at this point in Taker's career in WWE, the most shocking thing he could do at WrestleMania is not show up. That is literally the most shock, because you know he's going to show up. Even if he's hobbling to the ring or somebody has to bring him down a wheelchair, he will find his way to WrestleMania. I think it's a great start to pair him in a tag team match. I mean, this guy's beat up. He doesn't look in shape. Clearly, he's had a rough road to get back on TV. Give the guys some time, but obviously it's WrestleMania time. They're going to be rushing it. I'm hoping like how Punk can carry.
Punk can deliver. He's the secondary workhorse as well as Undertaker. He was the guard of the WWE for so many years.
Punk's got to take the reins on that, and I think Punk has taken the reins. And I think that's the thing that would make a lead up to this match so special, is that Taker was the guy in the locker room. Now Punk is that guy.
Absolutely.
Even bring in some backstage politics, and you got yourself an angle. There's a few other stories you want to touch on here before we get to your...
just to go on the Undertaker, I mean, we all pretty much assume that it's going to be Punk and Undertaker.
Absolutely.
Do you have a perspective on it? How you feel about it? Or
the way I look at it is, I've seen Punk Undertaker matches in the past. I didn't think they were very impressive. But it was an unimpressive Punk character because it was diluted by WWE. Now that Punk can say and pretty much do what he wants, the pile driver on Cena, stuff like that. Punk saying, I have the ability now. I got Heyman in. I got this working for me. I have one of the longest reigning WWE titles. I mean, I feel like maybe it'll be a different scenario, but what do either guys have to gain? Because if Taker beats Punk in the condition Taker's in, it makes Punk look weak. But if Punk beats the streak and he gets over on Taker, what else does he have to accomplish aside from main eventing WrestleMania?
You know what? I will make this argument, though, that we go into WrestleMania, somehow Punk upsets, ends the streak. I think you can get more out of Undertaker in the long run, because the number 20 for the streak was amazing, awesome accomplishment, but do you honestly believe he's going to get to 30?
I personally don't think he's either got to lose it this year or he's just got to retire.
But the number 30 will never be.
It'll never happen.
I don't see it unless it comes out choke slam somebody, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
every year until we get to that is not happening. But if you somehow,
I'm basically picturing Mortal Kombat when you put the handicap on someone,
Yeah.
gets punched in the face, and the thing just goes down to boom, finish him.
but if you somehow, let Punk win, it establishes Punk even more.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think my thing with Taker is I think after 20, it should have been over. It should have been over but again, Taker does not care about the streak as much as Vince McMahon does.
Yeah.
Undertaker, Mark Calloway is playing Undertaker. Undertaker is Vince's character. So I'm hoping if Triple H is it's the changing of the guard, let Taker decide the fate of a character he has played for so long, and give it to Punk.
Yeah, I mean, if you've watched the CM Punk Best in the World documentary, they show how those matches that he had with Undertaker, he said, Michael P.S. Hayes says that he's earned his respect. So there's a general respect in the locker room, and Undertaker is a businessman. He's all about making the company look as best as it can.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he would recognize saying, this is the guy to do it.
Well, bear in mind, too, that Undertaker is also one of the guys in the back that he genuinely appreciates younger talent. I mean, look what he did for Cena. Look for what he's done for so many younger talents over the years that it's just, to me, it feels like a lose-lose situation. Ultimately, it should be in Punk's favor. It just feels lose-lose to me because it's still Vince's character. It's still Vince's company. Mm-hmm. But with the changes we're already seeing, maybe something... Again, Taker not showing up to WrestleMania or Taker losing the streak, that's the most shocking thing Taker can do at these pay-per-views anymore. But you did have a story, so...
Oh, yeah. Let me go into this
focus
one.
on that.
And then
because we didn't get to touch upon this last week.
Yeah,
so.
I wanted to. We were talking about, Rock had his belt made and everything like that, and I want to talk about another belt being made. Take a look at this image here. Looks somewhat familiar to you. Looks like the classic World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental title. But if you actually look closer at this, it says light heavyweight champion. I'll put the picture up on the video here. This guy named Bobby Rogers, no relation to Buddy Rogers, had this belt made by the WWE, Roger Parks. He's the guy that at one point made all the WWE titles and everything like that.
We'd like him back, please.
Yeah. Actually, I think he made the version 1 white Intercontinental title belt that sucks. And now the one that, I don't know if you noticed, like the first one that came back is all like etched out, and it's ugly as shit to me. But the version they're using now is beautiful. So this guy had this belt made for the purposes of getting on to shows like Sally, Jesse, and Jenny Jones, so he could go on and tell stories of being a gay wrestler that worked for the WWE, and he was the champion at the time. So he can gain her like sympathy and everything like that, and it's just crazy. And this guy is full of these like stories, and the only connection he's ever had to the WWE is when he was going around buying the WWE or WWE related .tv domain.
Oh, okay.
So he'd go buy like Stone Cold .tv or WWF.
Well, we were saying earlier, that's the best way to hold the company hostage in the future is steal their Facebook page. Get to Facebook before they do.
So the guy is synonymous with doing shitty things in this business, but let's see. Like I said, he claimed to be related to Buddy Rogers and everything like that. Attempted to sell his kidney on eBay in 1999. It actually gained like media attention. Got a reference on The Simpsons and everything.
Oh wow!
This one I loves it. He is too extreme for Paul Heyman. He offered. He offered to cut off his finger on a live ECW pay-per-view for a spot on the roster, and Paul Heyman downright refused.
This is before 16 and pregnant, ladies and gentlemen. People have always been this desperate for attention. This is nothing new. Clearly, this is 98, 99. This is nothing new.
So I guess between 2004 and 2008, he served a prison sentence for fraud.
Wow.
No one quite knows where the location of the WWF light heavyweight title belt, the fake one, is. Apparently, it may have been sold on eBay, perhaps in a package deal with his kidney.
So somewhere in someone's home, there's a cooler with a kidney and a forged light heavyweight championship belt.
Of Bobby Rogers. I guess he's still wrestling somewhere too. So check him out. I think it's the Florida area.
Without a kidney or possibly a finger. And he may actually still have the belt. We don't have confirmation. That is a lot of stories like that. Wrestlers, and this is the thing that WWE television should be more compelling. because wrestlers are really fucked up. Again, we talked about, Jake the Snake and, Scott Hall last week. I mean, you got some guys out there that are really tortured, tormented, messed up dudes. Like, that's a plain case of it. Art imitate life a little bit. Bring some of the darkness back to WWE. I realize it's a TV PG program. I realize, and again, this past Raw was any indication. I feel like you can mix the family-friendly stuff. Like, you got your Saturday Morning Slam, which apparently Mick Foley is now the GM of.
Zack Ryder.
Everybody was pulling for Ryder. Again, Ryder, just go to TNA. It's never happening, man. I'm a genuine fan, but it is never happening for you. I mean, I thought the whole Hovsky thing, the single that he released, like, it's like, dude, now you're reaching out there, and it's just not. He's
trying. He's doing everything he can. I give the guy credit.
It was a one-off novelty, man. Like, you did your thing with YouTube. The downfall of Zack Ryder was allowing WWE to have any sort of creative control over his YouTube show. Yeah. That was ultimately his downfall, because the second they incorporate that into their cluster of internet television and regular television, it's done. You no longer have as much control over yourself as you thought. But we do have a few more
we're getting
stories
close, so let's kind of jump around here.
If you want to cover a few more.
One thing, actually, I wanted to, since we're getting close to WrestleMania and before things are announced, is there anything that you personally might like to see that could conceivably happen on the show?
Honestly, with WrestleMania, I mean, I'm not conceivably gonna get what you mentioned the light heavyweight title. I would love to see the cruiserweight division return.
That would be awesome.
I mean, I think that's half the reason why Rey Mysterio is so fickle with being on WWE television. There's no one for him to realistically, aside from Sin Cara, and that was the thing. The cruiserweight division's been gone for so long. The Sin Cara versus Sin Cara match, easily one of my favorite matches of the past few years, and the crowd was bored senseless. They chanted boring through the whole match, because they don't recognize a solid luchador cruiserweight match, because the division's been gone for so long.
Unfortunately, to relate on that subject, apparently the Mysterio Sin Cara match has been scrapped. There will be no. Allegedly.
That's the second year in a row, and honestly, you couldn't even sell that match now if you tried. So.
Now, I want to hit on something that I think would be really interesting for them to do. Every year you find the one match where they're just pushing people in, whether it be some battle royal. Last year it was the Teddy Long, Johnny Ace match. You always have that. One idea I thought would be really awesome and unique to do and would work for all these mid-card guys, because we have a ton of them, is you have the United States title and you have the IC title. And much like how they have done when they had the two tag team titles, you do two similar type matches. I would love to see a scramble match for each separately for those titles. You can fit in, Zack Ryder. You can fit in Miz, Kofi, R-Truth. The list goes on.
Yeah, any of the guys that are in the back that aren't injured, that are ready to go.
It's interesting. I would be compelled. Like, holy shit, this is going to be fucking awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Who's going to walk out? Like, if it's a one-on-one for the Intercontinental title, I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, you're not going to build a solid story. But it looks as though our time has expired on the clock here.
It has.
I mean, if you want to send us out, sir.
Yes, let's do it. I am Jason Smith.
I'm Eddie Brophy, so you don't have to be.